Okay, it looks like we're approaching something close to starting. I see I'm pegging in the red. It's interesting that I have different considerations for volume. Huh. Alright, well, I'm pegging into the red. I take that to mean that I am full of vim and perhaps some vigor in some proportion. Likewise, I'm really having to crank up the game sound. Mysteries abound. Alright, chums, we're about to get started. I have to switch my gears into Sojourner mode. And here we come. Here we come with Sojourner mode. If there's anyone in the chat already, is my voice totally pegged out? Because it looks like on my mixer here that it's crazy, crazy, crazy loud. And once again, I have to log in every time I want to use chat. So if you are trying to chat at me, give me 1 second. Also, I don't have my deling sounds, so I will try and check chat as much as possible, but I cannot promise chat will be...
Upgrade complete.
I mean, you'll get that. But yeah, I'm trying to see where I hit the password. Okay, there it is. Cleverly hidden password. You don't just write that stuff down, do you? None of that kind of nonsense. You'll get yourself in trouble someday. Oh, I gotta do a token. Okay, never mind. So I think I can read... Yeah, I can read the stuff in Streamlabs, but I can't talk. Okay, so first off, yeah, you should hear like a jet engine. That's the game. So if it's crazy loud, let me know. But hello, Shan. Hello, Somnemia. Hello, Zextron. I know all three of you personally, so that's a great start to any stream. But yeah, I'm not joking. On my end, the mic is completely pegged out, and that's interesting to me. My PNG tuner is operational. And yeah, as long as you folks don't hear me distorted or anything like that, I'm just gonna barrel ahead as if the world was correct in all ways. Likewise with the sound, if you need me to turn down the game sound, it's proximity based, so I can just move away from machines. Some of these are like got a little bit of the asthma stuff going on. You kind of want to listen to them, but maybe you do not. So just let me know. We're gonna get started very, very shortly, actually. I want to make sure that since I can't chat in Streamlabs and I need to use my phone for notes, I'm going to see if I can do what we call a pro gamer move here. What that is, I'll be damned, but we're going to try it. Signs point to no, but let's keep trying. Keep firing. There, Dyson Sphere Project. What a thing. Let's see if this works. Hello from Hi Trap. Well, looky there. It's from Cloud Yeller, though. Okay, so let's not do that. I'm just going to do my thing. Y'all do your thing. Talk amongst yourselves. Maybe invent a new language. Solve the problem of ocean deacidification. Maybe rewrite the Human Declaration or the UN Declaration on Human Rights. Should read it. It's very good stuff. I see that we have some other stuff going on. So let's go ahead and get to the meat of things after I introduce myself. I'm not used to having a camera, so I'm going to do a camera real quick. Hello, it's me. And I'm gone. All right, that was fun. My name is Sojourner here, and I am also known as Steve Williams. I'm a video game designer with 20 years of experience, and I'm here to unleash that upon you tonight. I have been blessed by my masters at PyTrap Studios to give one of these little talks every Thursday, and this is the last one that's going to be using a different game every week. We're going to settle into another game because we're going to do a series of co-op stuff with some co-op people that may or may not already be in this chat. And it's not Cloud Yeller, whoever that joker is. So, as Sojourner, I am here to tell you folks a little bit about video games, specifically about how design thinks about video games. So I'm not here to teach you how to be a game designer, and I'm not here to tell you what every game designer knows. Instead, I'm going to give you a perspective on my 20 years of experience, things I've observed both making games and playing games through several generations of games, both as a designer and as a player person. So I like to say I know a little bit about games. That may or may not be true. But what I do know is that we can talk a little bit about logistics tonight. So we touched on a lot of this when I did Satisfactory, which was more like I wanted to show you my train set. But this one is I want to show you my train set in space. But really, the conversation here is to explain some of this stuff. Get ready for your zoom out moment. I wish I had some music for this one. So you see here, I'm a little mecha in a mecha world. This is me. My name is Icarus. I've got a lot of guns for a peaceful beast. And I am making a factory. I am making a huge factory. I am making a really huge factory. I am making a really huge factory. So this game is about converting stars and planets into energy. And you do that by building Dyson spheres. So we don't have a Dyson sphere yet, and we may or may not get to it because I do want to talk about logistics. So we're going to solve some basic logistics problems while we do it. But you see those beautiful halos outside the orbit of the hot place in that hive? Those are all put on by me, firing from eudaimonia, the homeworld, or sometimes firing from the hot place when I get a chance to supply them with these solar sails. But you can see here that we have several orbits. These are purposeful, but not really right now, but they become purposeful later when we start putting in the shells of the Dyson sphere. I'm all gesturing, you can't see my hands. All you can see is my beautiful, beautiful, beautiful PNG tuber, representing the very best I could ever be. You can see a lot of stuff going on. Big Blue is, of course, the Neptune-type planet that you'll see a lot in the background. But you can see we got little spaceships coming to and from the hot place, and eudaimonia. That's my part of my interplanetary logistics network. Each of those blue streaks is my planet firing off some of these new solar sails. They have a lifespan, and because they have a lifespan, you got to keep refreshing them. Eventually, maybe this session, but I doubt it, we're going to start putting up plates and actually build a sphere, a solid sphere. And that's a lot more complicated, but more importantly, that requires better aiming, I guess is the way to put it, of your doodads. All right, so we've got this world-spanning factory, and our job is basically, for the most part, to get all the candy into the candy machine. This is a game design term. I'm kidding. Look at all that. Look at all those little guys flying around. I don't think they were there last time. So I played this game last time in 2021. And to prove it to you, look at these saved games. Look at that. 2021, 2021, 2021. So needless to say, I am still catching up with the last 4 years of development. And these folks at YouthCat have done a great job of developing their game. They're a small team, small indie team like my studio here at PyTrap. And they've just frickin' knocked this game out of the park. There are companies with 100 people who could not have achieved this. So I mean that with both love and respect. That this game may not look like much to some eyes, but it is a well-oiled machine about making well-oiled machines. So as I said, we got candy that we're trying to get into the candy machine. So basically, this is the research tower, and when it goes sparkly on each of these levels, then it's doing research. So right now, no research is occurring. That's a problem. We'll find out why here in a second. We have several flavors of candy that go in. Okay, that's no problem. That's what I was looking for, Zextrin. Live from this parachuting expedition, we could see the planet down below. They all look like ants. All right, is that better, Zextrin? I am not here to cause eye or ear damage. By the way, the curvature in this different resolution is really blowing my mind on this thing. Anyways, drop in chat if this is working better on the game sound. Like I said, I'm not here to harm. I'm here to help. So the purpose of this game is really to get this candy into the candy machine. We got blue candy, we got red candy, yellow candy, and I'm just now starting to build a lot of purple candy. So if we have the question, why aren't these things lighten up like this one right here? It's because purple. So this is what we call saturation. when you try to distribute things, you got a couple options. Option number one is just get what you have, which is the purples right here, to the thing as best you can. You don't have enough to really serve the capacity of the candy machine, so you're just there to get as many in there as you can. But if we look at blue, which is the first one you unlock, you can see that not a lot of it is lit up. But this time you can also see that these lines are wildly backed up. So the problem is not getting the stuff here and watching it trickle out with the purples. In this case, all of these storage units are full. This entire river of blue is full, and all the supply is full. So this thing cannot move. It's locked in place, and you see it move only when new research happens, when a purple goes in. And you can see over here on the left that this is my color, my candiometer. And you can see that I need 965 of all of these, and I've got varying amounts coming in. In the end, this happens when the purples are done, because you can see I've saturated out the reds. And yellow, while not saturated, is, we got a lot of these yellows. We got a lot of them. So purple is a thing we could be optimizing in our logistics conversation, but we shall not. I spent some time earlier, but we've got two main problems to solve, one small, one big. And while we do it, we're going to talk a little bit about video games, specifically about how logistics works. So think back to Satisfactory, when I wasn't running away from beasts and I was talking endlessly about the color pink. Seriously, go back and watch that one. I like pink was the message. I didn't used to like pink. That was the discussion. Things were simpler for Sojourner back then. So we have a couple problems. I said that purple is just trickling out. So how do we not trickle it? Well, let's look at the two inputs. We've got these guys coming in here. These are fiber optics that are made out of churros and plastic and silicon crystals. So we get these fiber optics. So those are one ingredient, but you can see that we're saturated here. While we don't have all of them in the world, we've got a lot. We've got all this here. We've got all this line backed up here. So even though we're not quote-unquote fully saturated, we have more than enough to meet any needs as long as these microchips are trickling in. Let's find down the highway where these microchips are. There's one. Actually, this is worse than usual. So clearly the microchips are not coming in. So logistically, this is our bottleneck. So a bottleneck happens all the time. Have you ever had to stop at a stop sign and just wait and wait and wait for the cross traffic to happen? You're in a bit of a traffic bottleneck. Traffic designers, city designers, they obsess over these bottlenecks and frequently fail to do anything about them because there are other rules that prevent them from fixing the bottlenecks. But here we have a clear one. We have a lack of supply of something that we need, and I'm going to tell you now, we got a lot of things that are supposedly supplying that. So what you do is you go upstream, and that begins the analogy. Yeah, we got churros. We're going to see churros. Don't worry. We're not going to be making the churros like we did on Tuesday, but churros are definitely involved. All of these are food. This is how you limit the amount of time you play this game, because it's one of those games you can lose 6-10 hours in. So instead, if I think of all these as food, eventually I get hungry, and then that solves all of life's problems. So our main analogy about logistics, sorry, I had to take a swallow of my night beverage, which now I have to remind everyone, apparently every single time, that it's not alcohol. You can have a night beverage that is just fruit juice. It's possible. Though this one is this one's a little sugarier than I was expecting. So this is a night beverage that's going to keep me up all night. Anyways, we're not here to talk about night beverages as much as I enjoy them. I could talk about the food thief. We have a midnight food thief who keeps coming and taking our most desirable leftovers and disappearing with them. Now, we have some suspects of the food thief, but we've never been able to catch them on camera. And today, we had a food theft in broad daylight. So if I seem distracted, that's what's going on. We have this food thief. They're vicious. They're a criminal. They can't be stopped. And, I lose sleep over it. Also, I'm finally gaining some weight. On another note, we are still trying to figure out what's going on here. So now we got a little bit of a flow. Whatever was backing things up has been somewhat fixed. But because of this blockage, because of these barriers, because of this flow that is interrupted, because that there is a source of these things and that they flow, we're going to talk about rivers. Now, one or more of you may remember that I did geology before I did game design, and before I did factory work, and after I was a carny. And I had a couple other jobs, 4 museum jobs. So in all that, I did geology because that's the real cool science. That's the one where you get to walk around outside and do science. And when you're done with walking around outside, you can go to a laboratory that's completely climate controlled, because it will destroy the rocks, not you. And you can like hang out with X-rays and stuff like that, like rock X-rays, not people X-rays. So anyways, what I'm saying is geology was the best. Also, this is just good news. I'm just going to throw it out there. I don't often say it because the audience isn't right, but this audience is. I am very happy to say that over 50% of my graduating class of geology majors were female. These were the beginning of the STEM efforts, and by golly, it worked, at least for my tiny little desert college. Arguably, but not too arguably, we had, the most awesome students were, one of them rollerbladed 30 miles an hour down the road to get to class, stuff like that. And that was Anna. She was the one who helped me get through advanced mineralogy, actually. The reason why I mention that, though, is you often hear about geologists finding gold and stuff like that, and I do have a story about a guy who was paying for his college based upon his rock hounding for gold and gems. So these things are all possible. I didn't do much of that. I know where some serpentine is that no one else does, and that's about it. Serpentine has value. If I ever find a soft rock carver, I can say, here's a bunch of serpentine. I also collect obsidian, which you can make into blades, or dangle them from ropes and say, do not approach, these are deadly. I'm doing one of those. I'm doing this to get to the point where I can at least read this situation enough that I can talk intelligently about rivers. So what are the parts of a river? There's the headwaters, right? That's where the river starts. And in this game, not for this, but we have the headwaters of coal here. And you can see that, like a river, they follow a path, they follow a channel. The channel is what we would call the channel of least resistance. It's trying to find its way downhill, basically. And underneath the ground, it could be absorbed, but we're not talking about real rivers. We're talking about these kind of rivers. So these kind of rivers wish to flow. You, as the player, do not necessarily wish them to flow continuously. This is what we kind of want, a saturated belt that ends. But if this flow is obstructed for any other reason, then you got problems, because you've got things like dams in the way. You've got things like floods. You've got all these things that can be analogized for the situation here in the game. Drought, for instance, is what's going on here. So this main channel, let's say here, of silicon, of mint bars, seems to be doing really well. Pretty saturated. Just an unbroken line, flowing from its headwater, which is, by the way, not here. This is just a tributary of the main headwaters, if we're going to continue that analogy. So where do mint bars come from if they don't come from here? You can see the little sparky dudes flying around back and forth, and a lot of them are coming here. They are delivering the mint bars, and the numbers are a little hard to see at this resolution, but it's telling us it's gaining a bunch of these from the little doodads coming, and that number is going up. But you'll also notice that the amount isn't going up because it's getting rid of them as fast as they're getting them. And that is an example of a deep or a shallow channel. Because if it's a shallow channel, then even if you have the water to flow through it, it doesn't go any faster. You can argue that this is currently a shallow channel. There's a lot more of these doodads waiting to be delivered to this channel than the channel is capable of taking. This channel can take 6 cargoes a second. If you look at some of the faster ones, which may be here, here's a faster one. These guys can go 12 cargoes a second. So that is a deeper channel. It allows a faster flow of the river, which arguably gets you more water through the river. So we have this tributary. So what do you do with tributaries? You try and find the river that they feed. And we know the river that they feed. Sorry, I was over here just a second ago. It's feeding just these machines. And we're going to find out what these machines are in just a second. Because the other thing you do with tributaries is not just find out where they hit the main channel, which was down there, but also where do they come from? Because they come from a different place each time. Just like this is the headwaters of the stone stream that is flowing around all this stuff. we've got this mysterious green mint bar stream. And you can see that when supply drops, we get the gaps. So no longer a saturated belt. We have a drought. Why do we have a drought? Where do these come from? By the way, this game gives you no information about that. Well, it does, but you have to really dig into it in a menu like this. Oh, that's interplanetary. Sorry. This is the one for the planet. I'm getting ahead of myself with interplanetary. Oh, that's the churro machine. I think I need to give it some... Oh, I'll worry about that another time. We're here to solve one problem. This game is full of that opportunity to not solve one problem. Okay, so we're on a tributary to find out where why we have a drought of mint bars. The Mint Bar River ain't going. You can see our little flying dudes are definitely dropping stuff off, and every time they do, a little bit trickles out. But I'm here to tell you that each of those flying dudes can carry 20? They can carry a lot more than they're delivering. So let's go find out where they come from. Now, you could follow them, but I have so many of them flying around that it's a fool's errand. So let's look. Okay, we got a couple of these green mint bars over here. So, and they come from here, but let's not deal with that first. So we've got 2 hats. This hat is literally sending out pretty much everything it gets. And that 0 out of 9 means all of its drones are flying all the time. So this thing is at maximum capacity. Or is it? Let's see. Here's some silicon. It's loading them lickety-split. And they're all getting taken away in good time. We also have another one of these. 2 hats. 2 hats doing this. So we have a total of 19 drones just flying back and forth to deliver mint bars. But where did the mint bars come from? They come from the interplanetary, interstellar logistics system. And you can look up here, or you can look here. You can see that it's delivered some, and it's instantly gone. We do not have enough supply of mint bars to achieve our goals. So remember, we started way over there with some machines that weren't performing for us, and we keep going further and further and further up this river, and we're finding more and more and more reasons to go further and further up the river. Because these mint bars aren't from this world. They come from the hot place. And so any issues we have with supply is one of 2 things. Either the hot place is not making as many as it could, or you see this in transit 600, perhaps we are not able to bring enough over time to satisfy the desires of our production lines. So even though we have main channels, and even though we have this tributary, the tributary itself isn't being fed. Last but not least, to continue and finish the river analogy, you can think of a lot of this stuff as like a delta. So how deltas work in fluvial dynamics is they represent a place where there's no longer a significant downslope, and or the ground underneath is impermeable, like clayey. So what that means is stuff can't soak down, but it's not really being drawn downhill by the forces of the planet's gravity. So what happens is they spread out. They look for the lowest course. I mean, Taoism was right? Like water seeks the lowest course, as should you. And sorry, I didn't want to get in there with some Taoism, but today seems to be analogies to Taoism Day. All right, so these deltas represent our distribution networks. These deltas represent the hats. So these hats are constantly picking up stuff and sending them out for the desires of all these machines. And so this is a lot like a river spreading out in its deltas to distribute all this stuff. So we made churros. They come in here. The tributary is done. And now we're in a delta. The delta of sending out stuff on all these little doodad guys. So why do we care? Why do we care about the river? Why do we care about this? Well, to care about it, we need to find out what's the heck's wrong over here. So we have to ask ourselves a series of questions about this logistical issue. Is it, 1, that we are asking for too much silicon, the mint bars? Are we asking that no matter how much we can transport, we just need too many? That's question number 1, and you know, it's implied by what's going on, because you see there's a delivery and it comes out lickety-split, and all the machines are happy, and you can see they're spitting out whatever they're supposed to spit out, and these things are loading up with the good stuff that they're going to send over there. But then, like all good things, it ends. But I see another problem. It may not just be the supply, the glacier at the top, the fountain that feeds this river. It could also be the things that restrict its flow. Just like a real river might encounter rocks, it might encounter places where it can dig in, and places where it can't, places where it oxbows, where it cuts into one side and it doesn't, and it deposits on the other. All of these have analogies with this game. Flow, from dams to droughts to lack of water, all the way up to the channel being too shallow to take it. All of these things are exactly like the problems we face in logistics. So in order to solve the problem of not enough microchips coming in to make my purple go, so that way my research can go, we're going to have to go on quite the journey, a logistical journey, a journey of our imagination, or at least a logistical journey. So logistics comes from the Egyptian logos, which means carrying things in a cart, and it was often used by the Egyptians to form magical societies like the Logicians, which were actually a flag-waving society, and they taught us how to make blueberry drinks. It's really a fascinating history. Ancient Egyptian history is just rife with these things. They have a god of the stomach. They have a crocodile-headed god. They invented logistics. It's just an amazing culture. They built pyramids specifically to show their expertise in logistics. I mean, that part is actually true. The farmers were told it was a religious exercise, and then the pharaohs were like, "Hey, how do I achieve this? Making the biggest thing?" And along the way, logistics was formed. Now, a lot of that was a lie, but not as much as you may think. Okay, so remember, we want these microchips. They come out of this vast line of machines. So the machines themselves should not be the problem. We've got a lot of machines making a lot of microchips. But you can also see that, as we discussed at the beginning, one of the ingredients is missing. That ingredient is the blue circuitry thing. I think it's called microcrystalline component. They come out of here. And they're not coming out of here because, again, we don't have any silicon. We got everything else. We got the iron, we got the copper. We don't have any silicon. Is the silicon used anywhere else? So another logistical problem is fighting over resources. I want silicon, but I want silicon. What is best for the business? What is best for the flow? What is best for our goals? For instance, we're trying to create also these crystalline silicon, which requires the silicon, the mint bars. And we got a lot of it, just an absurd amount of it. And so question number one is, do we need to keep making this many to make these fiber optics out of churros and these things in plastic? And the answer is, I don't want to risk it. I don't want to risk cutting supplies to things that are working. I would rather increase production. So the analogy here is, if your river isn't flowing properly, you can dredge it. And that's what I'm going to do. Dredge it so it has a larger channel, but I'm also going to, I don't know, I'm running out of analogies here. I'm going to make the fountain at the top, the faucet at the top, bigger. And we'll have to fly to another planet to do that. So this is problem number one. We want to get silicon here. In theory, once we get silicon here, our microcrystalline blueberry things over here will come in, they'll come out, and this stops being a blocked flow. Sometimes we get dams, and dams are places, in my mind, where everything is consumed before it ever gets somewhere else. And that's pretty common in this game. And you also run into situations like this, where you're like, what the hell? What is missing here? In order to find that out, sometimes you have to go, okay, what does this mean? Okay, it's missing organic crystals. So we can go around all day and try and optimize these very broken construction lines in this very vast factory. And just like with tutorialization last week, this is a useless piece of information to you, the new player, or you, the interested player, because you haven't seen the step-by-step puzzle putting together that makes something like this possible. And just like in tutorialization, the way you build these things is not to have these guys flying around. You have to bootstrap up, just like Minecraft, by whacking on some wood and building a machine that just makes copper ore into copper. But now, of course, we have all this stuff going on an interplanetary scale. And it creates more and more of these headaches. Because we have a path of least resistance for all of these, that also means that we have issues with where can we not cross the flows, where can we try and create straight, clean channels, and what does it look like when we don't? Is there a purpose to everything? Is the river fully fished out and unconstrained by obstacles? An example here is this weird little power area where I catch any stray hydrogen that makes it through the rest of this production process. And so I don't even care if these things turn on. I'm just there to catch any hydrogen that gets out of the system that I don't want to be out of the system. So you see we have all these issues that we could be looking at, we could be solving. Because you have just this teetering pile of stuff, you can't help but have inefficiencies. Now there are players, in fact there's quite a few players who enjoy these kind of games, who will sit down and carefully math out a lot of these things. And if you remember when I talked about satisfactory in the efficiency talk, I was talking literally about that, mathing out each of the things. This takes 270. This requires a level 4 conveyor belt because it moves 480. Stuff like that, right? Like you want to know the stats for things. This game is a little bit more cryptic about the stats. I mean, you can still totally math it out. It does a thing where it shows you the current rate rather than the expected rate, which is very frustrating to someone who understands the word rate. Our journey begins. We're going to try and unclog this situation with silicon. Because when it looks good, it looks good. Look at that. Look at all that green. Look at all those mint bars. Yum, 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 yum. Yum, 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 yum. But as we have seen, it's not sustainable. Or it's not sustained. It's probably sustainable. Because right now, time's good, right? Like we got enough microchips coming in that we've lit up, what is that, six of these purples, which means a good amount is coming in. However, we also know that that will end. So it's time to make a space journey. Before I do that, let's make sure I have some fuel. Bitter experience. Okay, I'm out of fuel right now, so I'm going to do a quick charge up from the world's battery. It's not a euphemism, it's just the power you got. Use these towers. Each one gives me a little bit of a charge, so I surround myself with them like a naboob. Nabib. I don't even remember the term. A hoity-toity person. Though I think this one may not be touching me, yeah. By the way, there's combat in this game. Shooty. We're not going to do it tonight. Tough, we're doing logistics. I'm just letting you know because we'll see some things you might want to shooty. And the answer is yes, you eventually want to shooty. Like that hive that's floating around. They make it easy. They look like insects. They look like evil insects from the Matrix 2 and 3. So it's cool. You want to shooty them. In fact, there is no biological anything in this game. So your job, by the way, I forgot to mention, the reason why you're making all these cubes and sending all this energy is you're trying to power a VR for all of humanity, basically called the center brain. This is actually a pretty common sci-fi trope that if you harness the energy of stars, you can create perfect simulations of everything, and then no one would ever have to leave. They could just sit in their simulation chair. Everyone has written that story, and now we're living one. My favorite part, though, is you have no idea if there's anything alive other than the trees and stuff. I had this joke that perhaps there are cities and stuff here that we're crushing, but the software doesn't let us see it. This is something that happens when you play a game for one person who may even be in the chat played for 1,300 hours. I have a measly 600 hours in this game. Okay, I'm charged, I'm rested, I'm tanned, I'm ready. Make sure I didn't cut any power to anything. We're going to go on a space adventure. Let me grab some extra backup power because I'm paranoid about running out of fuel in space. Those are the crap power. You don't want those unless you have to. So I'm going to load it in first. Alright, so we're going to go on an adventure. Off into space. So first problem is we got this giant gas giant here, Big Blue, and it's trying to suck me in because gravity is a thing. And I want to go to the hot place without getting sucked in. There's a star. It's surrounded by swarms of solar panels. Whoever put those there is a flippin' genius, and we should respect them and say nice things about them forever. There's this hive made out of insect crap. Luckily, they don't seem to be very interested in me yet, so We'll just keep that going. Oh, I just noticed my cruise speed was nothing. Let's get going. Let's get going on this. So flying to other stars is a lot like this, except for you warp space, and it's actually a really cool effect. I'm kind of bummed that I couldn't show you everything. So let's talk a little bit about systems dynamics then. If we're thinking about...
Cruise ended.
Yeah, just
Flight mode.
get in there. Get in there, friends. There's one of the bad people's things. We'll see. Look at those little centipedes running around. They're not good guys. They're not anyone's guys. So system dynamics is in a few parts. Hello, drones. You found me here. First and foremost, we have material transformations. This is how we change the river fundamentally. This is where we add things to the river. And change things that are in the river. And so we have lots of transformations just here in this scene. That's why I stopped. We've got these sources, these headwaters of copper and these headwaters of iron. And they go off and they do things. Over here we're making magnets because magnets are really annoying. It's just best, it's just best to have some around. We're also making a whole bunch of these things, which make these things, which make these things, which make these things. So this is all a transformation, and each step of the way is a potential for there to be a poor logistics situation. Let's think about, I used to deliver gourmet groceries for a little while. It was a great between gigs job. And it was a logistics company, right? Like their job was to take gourmet groceries, which have very high perishability, and get them into the hands, or at least to the front doors of customers who can afford these kind of things. So as you can imagine, they are vocal. And as a delivery driver, I had several layers of logistics to deal with. Number one, orders. Someone has to tell me where to go. Number two, the food. Someone has to get me the food. Number three, the boxes. Someone has to pack this food into boxes, preferably the fewest boxes. Let's see, where are we going? Number five, what vehicle am I going to drive in? Is it my own vehicle? Is it a company van? Is it a company van that has parts hanging off it? Or is it a new company van? Back then I had an electric car. Can I charge it? Or will I have to try and make it all in one go? All of these things are just number five, because then you have number six, which is how's traffic? Is it raining? Is there meteors falling on you? So all of these logistical challenges hit my job. And you know, for most of the drivers like myself, it really wasn't that, you know, we weren't racking our minds over those things, but those were the considerations, the logistical considerations for a logistical company. So with that in mind, we have an example here of these same things. We talked about flow rate limitations, right? That's the thing where the channel isn't big enough, and so things are not moving as fast as they could. We talked about lack of supply, the droughts. So here we have a perfect situation. It's getting all the juices it could ever want, and so the only thing slowing it down... Oh, it's not getting all the juices it could ever want. What's going on here? Oh, we got it. We got a broken line. Some incompetent player. And then we have the question how to get there, but I'm not going to answer that today. We can have pollution in our logistics lines. Okay, back to it. All these folks are as happy as a clay. Oh gosh, now what's going on? Why? Oh, okay, I see. It's loading just as fast as it's getting. These guys have as much as they need, even though it doesn't look like it. And so the only limitation is how fast can the machine make it. I see now that they don't have everything they need. So let's try and figure that one out really, really, really quick. And the answer is, if it's not the line, we're getting everything here, then it's these little guys that load them in, the sorters. So we're going to upgrade these sorters and see if this starts to help our problem. So here we had a problem of where is there a bottleneck? Where are things slow? And now we have this new situation where, in theory, we're getting everything we need much faster. I think this machine's miswired. And I think that's the one that's been dumping the wrong thing in there. Yeah, one of these guys is doing that. All right, so we're going to rewire this. So you can also have situations like this. I call it pollution. It's good. It's good a name as any. We're going to cut that off for just a sec while we deal with this. So here we had the wrong ingredient being put in, and that has caused us, as you can see, some havoc. We've got some broken lines. We've got some mixed up stuff, and it's hard for us to tell what's working and what's not until we rebuild or at least correct this line. And because it's local night, we can't really see anything either. Okay, in theory, always a different button. Oh, yes, I got to get out of this mode. Always a different mode, too. Okay, let's see if this solved our problems. Or at least mitigated them. Okay, so suddenly we have a new flow problem.
Depleted.
Yeah. And that is we need gears. No, we still need iron here. It's not getting here. It's not getting anywhere. However, there's iron aplenty up here. So these are just very common logistical issues that you got to solve. Now, part of the problem is this got a little complex. The river starts here, gets transformed into iron here, and then either goes down here to where it's needed or it gets loaded into this thing where it can go basically back the way it came, but it needs to serve these machines too. So because of that, we have too many jumps, basically, too many places where this is expected to handle its own business. Now we have some solutions here, but none of them are great. But I'm going to do one of them. It's what we call a pro gamer move. If this line is saturated and we have an almost endless supply here, we can do this. We can upgrade this to a faster flow, which isn't necessary right now because it's already saturated and it doesn't seem to be unhappy. But what we're going to do is we're going to cut a new channel, a canal, so to speak, over to here and take this flow and start to send it over here. And it looks a little something like this. He says in utter silence, focus, concentration. No, I'm just kidding. It's not that bad. Okay, so we're going to do some of this and some of this. And now it's moving these things as fast as it possibly can, but we can go even faster. So even though these sorters are moving these things lickety-split, they're still limited to the channel speed. So let's see what happens when we up the channel speed. We can see here that this line is starting to get more and more full. There's less of a break when these things are dragging stuff across, and we could do even better. Let's do even better. Let's set up a second part to this. And now we are completely limited by not only this passage, but also the fact that now we've saturated this line. Now we have all the iron we need, and these guys are on continuous action, which is what you want. 100% uptime on the machine. So with this tributary, all we're doing is we're trying to correct the drought over here, so to speak. And this isn't so much a drought as it's a bunch of water that has to go to too many places. And so wherever is the most downstream suffers. Here I'm talking about the Colorado River. Sorry people in Arizona, especially sorry people in Mexico. There was once a time when you got to use the Colorado River yourself. By the way, that isn't climate change. That's just really poor water management. Las Vegas exists, basically. Okay, so we've seen a little bit about how to fix some basic issues. So none of this area, by the way, is critical. This is just to show us a little bit about how logistics can be good and how it can be bad, how we can solve problems and how we can be sad about them. So remember, we're here for the mint bars. It's all about the mint bars. Mint bars are cooked over here. We have our headwaters, which you can already see gaps. We've got a large amount of transformers that transform mint bars or mint bar ore. It's called mint crumbles into mint bars. And you can also see this is not a saturated line. Now the reasons for this could be many. So let's first look at these things. Do they have stuff backed up waiting to be launched? No. So even though these are the slowest of the sorters, doesn't matter. That's not the problem. How about this one? It's holding back all of this. It's like a dam. Damn. A couple ways we could solve this. First, let's look. This is a level 2. And this is... Hooray! That's actually a really good research thing. I'll tell you about it some other time. So we got a couple issues, a couple ways we can solve this. Right now, this channel is full, and this channel is not full. So we want to find a way to direct as much of this over to here as possible. First solution is to make this the fastest one of these there are. And that helps. Things are moving. Things are moving quite well. But what we have not done is appreciably taken as much as this place can give. So we're going to try one more thing. We're going to widen the mouth of this tributary by doing this. Let's do it with the green. And then we're going to go ahead and put up a couple more of these. And right now they're probably not useful, but let's go ahead and upgrade this line to see if this is just a fundamental flow problem. And the answer is yes. Now we have a saturated belt. Or a soon-to-be saturated belt. Or is it? Look at that. We finally caught up with the amount of production being made. And so now we see that this is overkill for the basic goal of getting that stuff over to here. But overkill is better than no, overkill is bad. You shouldn't kill things. At least you shouldn't kill mint bars, unless by that you mean you eat them all. Eating mint bars is a protected form of cultural expression in this nation, by the way. So don't ever let anyone tell you not to do mint bars. I see I drove Zextrin off, which is fine. We didn't need her. Yeah, it's fine. I'll cry myself to sleep tonight, but come back stronger tomorrow. So what else is going on here? We've got some of these green menaces happening over here, and they also are feeding the machine. But you can see here that these mint bars are going through a lot of... They're just going through a lot. And the reason why is I wanted to have this buffer. This is called a buffer. This is a lot like a dam. But this is the good kind of dam that fills up with a reservoir behind it, and then when you need the stuff inside it, you unleash it. However, as we can see, we're really not dealing with a shortage or an overproduction ever. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you, spoiler, we're never going to have too much of this silicon for at least 10 to 20 more hours. So we're going to go ahead and straighten all this out, fix this all, so that way it's no longer this kind of mess. What are we trying to do? We have a dam that is just slowing things down, but it's not producing any value for us. So boop, 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 and a boopity boop, boop, boop. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and just get these lines into the machine that takes them away. We'll talk a little bit more about what we're trying to do here. Well, one of them is connecting dots, which apparently I can't do. And then we have these fellas, but we have 3 entrances. Normally, you don't want to use all your entrances for one thing, but why not? Why not? So you have to say, these are vampires, by the way. You have to say, I would like to be invited in, entrance. I gotta remember how to be invited in. Was it this? You have to be invited in, he says. Now I don't remember how to be invited in. So the idea here is you have to designate this. Oh, only if it's an exit. That's right. Okay, that's what's going on. All right, so we've got a lot of mint bars coming in. And we could see that we're building some up, but all of them are still being taken. We can't seem to hit a situation where we have too much. So the ways you can solve this are manifold. We can try and up production here. That's getting to be pretty resource intensive. We can look at some other places. We can try and mine a little bit more here, which isn't necessarily a bad idea, but we're covering almost every single node here. So we do what the pioneers did, manifest destiny. Let's go find some more silicon. This is where I made bullets for a very short battle that destroyed the bad guys here. And then they landed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Whoops, they're everywhere. Oh, shoot, I think they saw me. Yeah, there's this problem where you're, if you get too close, you'll shoot them, even though it's a silly idea to do so. So we got a lot of titanium. Ain't seeing any more silicon. Is all lost? Let's find out. It says there's 2 million left, and this is 1.8 million, so, or no, this is half of that, so where are you at, silicon? Come back, I didn't mean it. There it is. So we have a bunch of options, but if you remember, we had those little guys who fly back and forth, so that's going to be our main selection. I'm just trying to figure out which is closer. There really isn't a closer for this one. I guess there is. All right, so let's go take a look at that that new real estate and see if we can use it. Remember, we're doing all of this to solve why we don't have enough microchips, to solve why we don't have enough purples coming up. So right now I don't have any research going. I'm letting everything build up for a second so I can focus just on this. And remember to Alt-Tab to be told things like people are leaving. I'm not sad. You're sad. That's right. You can't. The camera's not on. You can't see these things. You can't see my sadness. You can only feel it in my voice. Okay, so we've seen some material transformations. We've seen lots of issues with flow rate. We've seen the back pressure when it's been blocked, and I'm showing you how we can build the network to adapt to those situations. So because logistics is core gameplay in Dyson, we have to look at what is the game trying to achieve. First off, we have very, very, very specific and clear spatial challenges. You've seen how all my stuff is a rat's nest of spaghetti. And a lot of times you'll see them go on kind of circuitous routes because of the space limitations we have. And that creates an efficiency problem, because the longer stuff has to go, then the more chances there are for it to not get there, or more importantly, to get there at a very low rate. So let's go ahead and start mining these guys. And then we'll worry about how to where we're going to do this. So you can see here that I've got this like fan, and I'm trying to maximize how many of these I catch at once. Since I'm going to be using all of this, my main concern here is just trying to make sure I touch every node and climb every mountain. Almost always 3 is the magic number for this. It's not anything special. It's just, you know, if you look at how these nodes are distributed, it kind of always ends up with 3 if you want to cover every single one, which we do. We're about to make an absurd silicon powerhouse. We are going to definitively put a stake. Oops. We're going to definitively put a stake in the silicon problems, at least at least until they crop up again. So here I'm just trying to find home, because I want to build a power line. And okay, well, I've got the polar solar panels there, so we can follow that line to here. Okay, so where is this in comparison to where I am? This is probably the longest I've ever had to look for this sort of thing. Okay, so it's southeast of me. So, okay, let's start building a power line. And this is, by the way, an example of infrastructure development for the purpose of expansion. So there's 2 types of infrastructure development, both in the real world and in video games. And one of them is I want to increase my power. Another one is I want to increase my challenge, or my challenges. I want to increase my options. And the last one is I want to be able to do everything. What does that mean? Be able to do everything. Well, in Dyson, that's kind of what we're doing here. We want to build a Dyson Sphere, which comes with all these other doodads and stuff. And right now we got this Dyson Swarm, which we're completely ignoring, though it's very beautiful here. It's made of stars. Just like a monolith. Just like one. Okay, we're slowly and laboriously coming through here, but we have an opportunity, so we're going to take it. I have these Mustafarian geothermal plants. We can Mustafar it up a little bit. Been hanging on to these for just this purpose. Okay, well, we've got a power network now that handles these folks' business. You can see they're running over there, but we still want to attach to the main line.
Flight mode.
It's not a good idea to split up your power systems. It's worth it to literally build a power line across the planet. So we're going to meet in the middle like the Transcontinental Railroad. For you non-Americans, it was an opportunity for various government contractors to spend a tremendous amount of money on a stunt like going to the moon. But just like going to the moon, it ended up having all these amazing benefits that weren't realized at the time. My city had the first ending point, the west coast ending point of the Transcontinental Railroad. Is the first one. They moved it pretty quickly thereafter. And let me tell you, all it's got is a teeny tiny plaque on the grounds of a gas station. That is our only memory of the first ending point for the Transcontinental Railroad. I mention that because infrastructure like the Transcontinental Railroad were critical, incredibly expensive. They had to blast through mountains. They had to build over mountains. They had to build through mountains. They had to build across vast plains. There were people, human people, who did not want them to be there and were willing to shoot at them. So there was a lot of stuff. John Henry was there. He was hammering in the mountains. His hammer was striking fire. But yeah, all of this stuff was going on just to build this railroad. And for the first part, it really didn't have a specific purpose. There was already plenty of competing railroads all over the place by various evil-sounding companies. That wasn't the problem. The problem was people needed to have faith in the expansion, and they needed to have faith in the power of railroads to get them from point A to point B. Now, the railroads were also good for another reason, which is you literally had to sail around two continents to get from one end of America to the other. But again, that was a critical thing, but only for a few people. But it did fire the people's imagination, just like putting that power line across fired my imagination. It's the exact same thing in every possible way. So I'm about to set up an absurd amount of silicon processing. We're going to definitively kill this. Now there's a thing I can do, which I'm going to do because I said I can do it. I'm going to set up one of these. And already failed to set it up correctly. No, I got it right. And then I'm going to say, hey, you, get on that cloud. Okay, so I've got here a little unit of this processing. And we'll even go and do the right thing, which is tell it to make mint bars. Okay? So what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to solve one of the big problems of logistics, which is when does complexity become complexity and when does scale become scale? You may remember that a certain car manufacturing mogul, he wanted to put up massive scale battery plants, he called them gigascale. And their purpose was much like this, to find a way to take this very simple system and turn it into something repeatable. Like this blueprint that we're about to make. So here we have this. And we're going to say, hey, I think I just hit Control C and then Control V. Yeah, okay. So I could start to build this without having to worry about getting all that internal structure. Now, if I was better, I would have a better way of connecting those. But I'm going to build a ton of these, and we're going to find out just what the limits of those three miners are by just putting an absurd amount of what I call the mint crumbles through. So we definitely don't care about the power situation right now. We don't want to turn these on until we know what we're going to do with them. And what we're going to do with them is, if you recall those little friendly guys flying around, we're going to do the same thing for this. However, I don't know if it's going to go all the way in one go. So we may have to do a little bit of a Pony Express. And by that I mean we may have to set up a situation where it flies it halfway and then drops it off and then flies it the rest of the way with another one. Is that ideal? Absolutely not. But it is sometimes not ideal is ideal enough. Okay, so I have to. You can see I have to do some razzle dazzle already with the mint crumbles, but we got it there. So now they're moving at a laborious rate, and we already know that this is not going to work for us because there's going to be way too much of this stuff trying to get to all of those processors. So at some point, we're going to have to figure out exactly how we make this a realistic thing that actually processes through all that stuff. So I've got the 3 miners set up, and I'm not talking about kids. I'm talking about silicon mint crumble mines. Sorry, that's a joke I love, and it never works when I want it to work. Alright, I made two mistakes that I always make, which is the corners are a terrible place to try and build a sorter. Instead, you do that, and you do that, and you do that. And this one's going to not be as cool. Alright, we've got ourselves a lot of silicon wanting to go down there. I think something like probably about 300 and some odd. And this thing is going to easily eat up 300 and some odd. So let's turn it on, see what happens. Oh no, let's get the outlet going. Let's get the outs. We did the ins. Let's do the outs. One's for the ins, one's for the outs. Ain't that right? Okay, so one thing we need to do is we need to make some more of these. Make some more of these. And we can't make those yet. Or I don't have the stuff on me to make them. Alright, so we have the stuff going in. Now we need to take the stuff going out. Logistics. Now, if we are at all worried that we would want to expand this, then we would want to take some actions to make sure that we're not putting anything in here. But I doubt I'm going to want to. So instead, I'm going to build a nice complex of storage, which we've seen before. And then we're going to put a hat on it and send it back towards the interstellar fly around thing. Now, because this is on a sphere, you can see that as we move closer to the pole, the latitude and longitude lines have to change because it's a sphere. It's just simple geometry. So because of that, this gets a little wonky. Normally it still works. But not today, devil. I mean, I could probably fix that, but why? Why fix it? We have things to do. People to see. Loves. Lives. Challenges. Other words I just looked up. Okay, now we're loading in whatever comes out of there. All those delicious mint bars. Let's put a hat on it. Hat. Do we have... I don't think I have any handy drones. Oh, I do. I have a ton of them. Okay, you got a lot of drones. What are you going to do with them? What are you going to do with them? First off, we're going to mention that these are mint fresh. And there's no power. And we want it to distribute, but not take in. Don't worry about the Icarus thing. It's not going to be a non-issue for this non-problem. So all that's left is to flip the switch. Let's do it. Now, we haven't told that thing where to go yet, but we'll be getting to that. There's kind of an art to setting these power things up, but I'm not an artist, I guess. Missed one thing. Okay, well, I don't care. This isn't supposed to look any prettier than this. So you can see now that we are in action, but I haven't actually hooked these things up. First, I just want to make sure that we have stuff. But you'll notice we got a drought. This stuff is not making it down the line, even though we've got all kinds of stuff coming in. But because we have constrained the flow to just this one place, none of this really can flow. So let's go ahead and get those outs first, and then we'll fix that flow issue.
Replication complete.
Thank you. I've always wanted a replication. So this is another thing I could have blueprinted, but forgot. It's okay. To be honest, even though it's time consuming, this is part of the fun of logistics games for me, is just the wiring. Just wiring it up. Making circuits of things. Okay, now we've hooked this up. So now we got our green things, our mint bars. They're coming in, but these have never worked. These have never touched. These have never known the touch of a mint crumble. So our problems are throughput. And here, we aren't getting enough of these mint crumbles down the line. How do we solve it? By making making the channel much, much bigger. And in this case, that means using these level 3 dealies. So I'm going to need to make some more. Why can't I make some more? Oh my god, the one thing I can't make on this planet. But oh wait, I have a bunch of this in reserve. Never mind. I was all excited there. I thought things were going to go wrong. But we're fine. We're fine. Everyone's fine here. How are you? So these spatial challenges also are not just distance. I mean, we're seeing the distance problem with this thing being in Narnia compared to Xanadu over there. But these spatial problems come in many forms, right? Where the factory is placed, the necessity of putting these things near various resources that may be very far away. There is terrain, of course. There are celestial bodies that prevent you, say, from firing off your parts to the Dyson Sphere because they're on a planet. They got to point at that thing. So these are all considerations. And then there's just the space utilization up also. You can see things are up in the sky. You saw me build something very high. That's also a consideration for logistics, because when I build it high, then I can dump all the stuff in there and we're fine. Speaking of dump all the stuff in there, we got another problem. We're clearly putting out a ton of these, but we're not loading them in fast enough. So we're going to have to use bigger and better sorters. That's overkill, but we're going to get it done. Overkill over here too, why not? Okay, so now we've solved one problem. We're going to move these things fast enough. Now, I'm guessing, based upon already the spacing, that we won't have a problem with the channel itself. And now that we have ultra fast transfer, this will never be an issue again, unless we actually get these other things operating. So let's get that going. Let's see how close we can get to that. So if the channel is too small, make a bigger channel. Come on. Oh, I have to hit the button down here. I'm sorry. All right. We're at full speed. Still not making it. Still not making it. Look at that. Getting caught. So this is a problem that cannot be solved this way. We've got all the mint crumbles in the world, but we still cannot physically put enough mint crumbles in the way of these things to serve them. So, how do we fix this? I mean, I'm asking, but I don't expect anyone to answer. If that one channel at its maximum speed is not enough, then we need another channel. So let's make that happen. Now, this other channel is only going to serve one side. But if we serve one side, then they'll be satisfied and they won't put as much pressure on the middle channel. So let's get that done. And we're gonna co-op this guy right here. And possibly hit the wrong thing every single time. Alright, so we're gonna make a little bit of a chain here. And then all along along here, but we can't. Because there's a power thing there. Now everyone needs power. Oh no. The internet is down. Introspection! Introspection! It's the fear of everyone who's ever been on the internet, is when it goes down. Because then they'll have to think. They'll have to be themselves again. We're going to go with level 2 sorters on this one. Basically, they're going to counteract the fact that they're too far away. And they basically act like a level 1. Because they're twice as fast and this is twice as far. This isn't like game designer analysis or anything. That's just how these things work. Okay, so now we've got things loading in from both sides. There's good motion. There's no backup. Well, there's a backup because of lack of power. Wow, I really did a terrible job setting up a power network here. So things are moving. Things are loading in. But we're still not catching all that stuff in the middle. How can we fix this? Well, if that channel, you'll see the second channel is also not getting everything in time. So what gives? Well, what gives is each of these factory machines take in 4. They'll hold on to 4. And that builds up quite quickly over here. So let's try another line. Now, this isn't necessarily the right solution to these problems, but you know, they're good for discussing the basic problems we have in making a factory. Okay, good. So we're going to do the same thing over here with this other flow. So this time we'll set this part up first so we can see what happens when we turn it on. And we're going to go ahead once again and use those level 2s. Oh, I need some level 2s. Not enough iron. Ah, I don't have enough iron. Look at that. Yeah. Well, I can go get some, but we'll work with what we got for right now. Really, it's these furthest ones away. These furthest. Oh no! Don't do that! Don't do that! Don't do that! Somehow I managed to miss all 3 times. Okay. Crossing the streams, always bad. It's not just in Ghostbusters. Yeah, I don't have the crown, by the way, folks. And our moderator... Oh, Cloud Yellers. Okay. Hang on. Let me contact Cloud Yeller. We can listen to the fine ASMR sounds of this thing going on.
Complete.
Whoops. Wrong button. Again. How do I get into the chat for this? How do I do a moderator action? Education. Learning. We've done it. Okay. Well, it wasn't that easy on the phone version. But thanks, Omnimia. I know you have crackerjack knowledge about this stuff too. Oh, sometimes this happens. Sometimes you get it backwards. So we have some parts of the thing moving in the wrong direction. There's ways to solve that. The main way to solve it is just tell it to reverse direction, which did not used to exist. It did not used to be a thing you could do. Which is bizarre. And I mean, this game is all quality of life repair, as far as I'm concerned. All right, let's get this sorted. See what I did there? Man, it gets dark on this planet when it's nighttime. Now, you may ask yourself, are we robbing Peter to pay Paul, or whatever? It's a Beatles reference. I don't know what it means. And the answer is yes. By diverting our flows from here, though, we are freeing ourselves up to have all of the mint crumbles from all three of them at least have some ability to travel, rather than being stuck right here. And the proof of this is if we start to see these not have the yellow warning signs. So it may take a couple minutes. So while we're doing that, I'm going to talk a little bit more, because that is my job. Well, not my job, my vocation. Oh, why do you do these things, Mr. Phone? Or Miss Phone? I'd actually never bothered to find out. So we have several different types of transport networks we've seen, and each of them work on their own timescale, right? So we have conveyor belts, and we've already seen that there's 3 flavors, and they do 3 things, and that's kind of purposeful and important. We've seen that there are logistics vessels, those little droney things that fly about, full of color and life. We've seen that there are craft that are flying back and forth between my planets. There's one right there. And you'll have to believe me, but pretty soon, in world time, we're going to have interstellar transport. All of them work on a different time scale. It takes a while for one of your little logistics things to jump over to that other star. It takes a while for them to arrive at the planet. It takes a while for them to load up, and it takes a while for them to fly up, and it takes them a while to warp back. So this is on a very different time scale than trying to get these things down the line. And so often when you are working in a logistics game, you're not just working in optimizing this stuff, but you're also working in how to manage things on different timescales. And that's a lot like a lot of logistics in real life. We have things that happen a lot and quickly. We have things that happen infrequently. We have things that are really big that happen infrequently. We have things that are really big that happen infrequently. And all these analogies come here with these transport styles. All of them have varied speeds. All of them have varied capacities, by the way, too. So those logistics vessels can carry 200. Those little drones can carry 20. And these little belts at their max speed can carry, what's the number, 30 a second. So all of these are just different numbers. And for most players, like myself, we just brute force our way through it. But we still have to be cognizant of exactly how we're failing on these things. And so it would behoove you to have some of the numbers in your head about why this does what it's supposed to be doing. But in the end, even though we didn't get the full supply I wanted, we're getting a lot. I mean, we got just a line of mint bars coming in. We'll try one more thing, if you're down. I think you all are down. Seem like a down group of people to me. Let's go ahead and speed these up and see if this benefits us in any way. I already know the answer to it. Maybe you do too. Nope, that's too much. That's how I did it before. Okay. These guys go warp speed once they hit that point. Are they doing any better in getting loaded further down the line? So it isn't velocity. No matter how fast your stream is flowing, that still doesn't tell us how much water is in the stream. The channel tells us. So a fast channel like this is still a channel. And even though it can take 30 a second, where's it going to get those 30? Is there any more optimization we can do here? Well, if this was a full line, then we would know that we're not pulling as much out of there as we could. But we are pulling every single drop out of there. Pulling every single drop out of here. We're pulling, so we're at max capacity. And I warned us earlier that we may get a little choked up. I'm sorry. That we may run into this problem. That no matter how hard we try, there just ain't enough of this, or there just ain't enough speed and ability to deliver that would allow us to run all these machines. I'm going to keep this because there is some razzle-dazzle that can come later, long after like 20 hours of gameplay from now. But now that we've got all this stuff coming in, we need to get it to go somewhere. So it wants to give to other distributors. Great. Let's go find one. Let's go get lost again. Yeah. Wait, I have a power line. You fool. We all got swords. Alright, so we need this thing to go from there all the way to here. And I'm going to tell you right now, it ain't going to go in one go. So we're going to do this thing where we're going to Pony Express all of this mint bars to here. Hopefully we can do it nice and close to the big tower and just load them straight in. That's the beautiful dream. And we got some spots here. So let's go ahead and begin that process. Give ourselves a nice box. Take 2, they're small. Give it a hat. Crushy with my mecha. So this one is going to ask for things, and you can see that there's 0 available. It's too far away. Actually, I don't want to do it this way. I want to do it this way. I want to rock. I want to rock. Okay, what I'm doing here, I need 2 of these, each with a, well, one with a hat. Do I need 2 of these? No, I don't need 2 of these here. I'm going to need 2 of these in the middle. So, just build this again. Luckily, you don't lose anything, because otherwise people would go mad trying to optimize and also not waste anything. But in this game, as opposed to Satisfactory, you do run out of these resources. So there is an end game, and the idea is you will have expanded to other planets which are just filled with resources, so you don't have to worry about running out, ending your game. But it is a possibility at the early game, and you have to deal with that and deal with what that does to your psyche, if anything. Okay, so we've got this set up to deliver mint bars as soon as we get some. Can I make more drones? I'm guessing no. Well, if it's iron, guys, jeez, give me some iron. Give me some blood. There. Now I've got iron. Any other problems? You don't have enough goose snark. Yes, I don't have enough goose snark. Okay, 20 more drones coming up. You can see here, by the way, that I asked for 20 drones, but it's making a bunch of stuff because the drones have ingredients, and with my home workbench, it's going to be smart enough to figure out all the individual steps. This is a real pain to automate. So some things you just never automate until you're in the very, very, very late game, and it would amuse you to have several hundred drones, drones kind of sitting in a box somewhere. So we're doing this because at every step of the way, I want to make sure we have plenty of drones. So this one wants to receive. And then once it receives, it will ship it off to the Tower of Power. So we want to be kind of purposeful about this next part. I actually don't know off the top of my head how far one of these can go, because it tells you in like degrees. And I mean, we could figure it out because there's a, we could figure it out because there's a, we could figure it out because there is a grid, but you just saw how much pain I went through, and I'm sure there's a better way, but I don't know it. I ain't a smart enough person for that. I mean, I can't even find my other processing area. Pretty sure that one goes to the pole. You may be right. I might be crazy. Just might be the lunatic you're looking for. I can make a little mini blueprint of this. So my goal here is to see if I have enough range. Figure out the halfway point, see if that's close enough. Oh, pff. yes, okay. Well done, me. Alright, so through physics and math, somewhere, I really wish we could just put down signs. There it is. Through the magic of me trying to find crap, we got this thing going on. Now that I'm close enough, my little dudes will go build it. Well done, little dudes. And we're going to say, I would like to request. So now that I've requested, that's fine. This box will now get some from over there.
Complete.
But how do I get it over there? Again, Pony Express. So this time, we're going to set up another storage. And we're just going to, well, I guess I can do better. We're going to just set it to transport across. We'll give it a hat in a second. But first, we just want it to go across as fast as it can. And the reason why is this is not the goal, to have stuff here. The goal is to ship it out of here. It seems obvious, but this is the kind of stuff that you lose track of very easily in a game like this. Okay, we're going to have it provide. Now, at first, it's probably going to do some confusing things going back and forth with itself, but eventually that settles down. See? See what it's doing there? Eventually that settles down because eventually we can move enough stuff in there. I am a little concerned that it said only one, though. So like I said, this is a thing that will go on for a little bit while we fill up. But because it says only one available route, that's this. So we're still not close enough
Flight mode.
to make all this happen. So let's do this again.
Insufficient materials.
Well, you're insufficient materials then. We'll use these. Another hat. I think I might run out of hats.
Insufficient materials.
Not anymore. 5 more hats coming up. But you can see, by the way, those limits. It said I could build 6. Those are real limits. Okay, this one's going to ask for greenies, mid bars. And so for a while, this is going to be a world of confusion. And maybe a world of cold fusion. Ha ha ha. We're talking about Weird Al this morning. I'll get you part of the way there. It says 2 available routes. So hopefully, hopefully, we're getting the ones we want. We want to get all of them, basically. And then we're going to, again, Pony Express these to the next place. But instead of Pony Expressing them directly from there, let's find out how much further we have to go. Oh, wow. This is a stretch. Let's see if this will work anyway. Request. No, it's not going to work. Okay.
Flight mode.
So we're reaching a point of very rapidly diminishing returns. And so I think the new jazz we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and conveyor this closer. Luckily, conveyor belts are cheap and easy. Like a pot roast. So I have these little construction drones. Speaking of logistics, my ability to build is limited by these little drones flying back and forth. And so I want to kind of keep close to them if I want to build quickly. How much further? Are we there yet? No. Not even close. Getting closer. Getting more absurd. Let's go ahead and get this stuff going. Now, thinking about this a little bit more clearly, I don't think we're going to have the throughput necessary to take away all that stuff from over there. We'll find out shortly. But for now, let's get this as close as we can.
Flight mode.
We're almost there. Almost there. We can even skip this one if we want. But like a poor marksman, Khan, you keep missing the target. Get ready to scream Khan. You don't have to. We all know that scene. Spend the rest of your life buried alive. Buried alive.
Replication complete.
Very rarely have you ever seen a perfect casting for a villain for a minor show. I mean, Star Trek is big, but Ben Affleck wouldn't have been able to pull off that. Even Ben Kingsley. Trying to think of some other serious actors that would not be able to pull it off. Now, this game does have byproducts. Not like Satisfactory, which is kind of built around how do I manage this crap. But they do have byproducts that you do have to care about. And the big one is hydrogen back at my oil stuff. So we'll fly back there once I am satisfied that we're getting enough of this stuff through here. The throughput is terrible. The channel is too tight. We can only get, I think, 6 cargoes a second, 360 through this. And you can see that we've got these things going all over the place. But at least it's delivering. At least things are going to places. And we're not getting so much of this crosstalk anymore. Like I said, this stuff settles down after a while.
Flight mode.
So to recap, we absolutely fully used this silicon over here to the degree that a lot of the machines are not non-functional. And then, foolish me, I didn't put enough storage. We are now limited by a dam, like a literal dam. This I just cannot move this stuff fast enough with these things. And we're going to leave that for now. At least we've greatly increased our silicon mint bar output, and that's enough for now, because I want to move on to another topic. So we talked a little bit about what we're seeing here, these resource bottlenecks, these resource channelization, how we separate them, how we combine them, the varied speeds. For instance, we have these interstellars sitting here. They move fast, but they are limited in how much. This one's taken away 200 because there wasn't another 200 when a ship arrived. I've got 2 ships waiting. They will only go if they have a cargo. So again, the problem isn't then ships. I got plenty of ships. Problem is, again, the throughput of the mint bars themselves. So we've taken a really big swing. This whole snake is at least a huge improvement. It is starting to bother me because the real bottleneck is all the way at the source with that one container being too full. And I really want to do the thing, but I'm not going to. Oh, hey. So sometimes you see that because the other planet is firing things into the Dyson swarm across your own planet. All right, so let's take a look at byproducts real quick, waste management byproducts. In order to do that, we need to go back to our home world, Usul. I could tell you about it. I'm looking to see if I have any fuel stuffs, because I am out of fuel stuffs in my hand. At the very least, we're going to need to charge up. Boop, boop, boop. Oops. Where's the boops? Boop! Come on, boop. Boop me, baby. Okay, I have a lot of crap here. Including just random storage. I mean, okay. Sojourner. You're a smarty every day. Let's go over here, where we're still in the power grid, but I can surround myself with power-ups. Power up. Power up. Power up. Power up. Power up. You can put so many of these down, by the way, that you can knock out the power for your planet. which is, you know, it also says something about just how much power one of these mecha are supposed to be in fiction using. You can see down there that, you know, I've got a gigajoule of power in me. That's a lot, by the way, if you're keeping track. So the thing that we're looking at, remember I wanted mint bars to do a thing, to do a thing, to do a thing. So each step rapidly ramps up both the complexity of the logistics system, which is in itself a barrier, because who's going to keep track of all that stuff? Not even an AI sometimes. So every time we increase the complexity by having another ingredient, we increase the complexity by having another ingredient. Here's my fuel for this trip. So we're going to go back and look at the effects of having at least more mint bars coming in. Like I said, I wish this had been a little cleaner, but it was one of those things where I'd have to spend a little bit of time.
Flight mode.
And I've already spent enough time on this.
Cruise mode.
Okay, and speaking of which, I haven't really looked at anything in the chat for quite a while. So let me get myself going a little bit faster. Scream if you want to go faster. Take a look. Oh, I was reading what you said, Somnia. I thought you were talking about the game and not the moderation. I was very confused. Bonk.
Cruise ended.
I'm here.
Flight
Like a
mode.
meteor. It really should leave a crater. I think Shan said that. Really should leave a crater. Okay, look at this. We are definitely silicon rich again. Machines are humming. Product is coming out. Or is it? We have that same problem we had elsewhere. We have a lot of stuff coming in, but it's not reaching the end of the line. It's all getting sucked up before then. Or at least it's largely getting sucked up. So, do you remember what our solutions were? Of course not. You're just sitting there listening. Well, one of our solutions would be not to have this weird new spring taking in waters from over there and then distributing over there. This isn't a thing I can solve very quickly, because again, the green bars come in here, and I want them over here. Solutions abound. The fastest one we can do right now, spend the money and increase the speed. Spend the space bucks. So in order to do that, let's make sure I have enough of these. I do not. So I'll start making some more of these. It's going to take by the way, you can see how long the entire queue will take. A little bit under 240 seconds. While we're waiting for that to percolate,
Flight mode.
let's take a look at what's going on. Because we've done no research, we've started to build up some juices. So let's get some research going. So we have a lot of options. We could do some more vertical construction. Ray transmission efficiency is very nice. Very, very nice. Solar cell lifespan, very, very nice. So we got options. We can increase the range those drones fly, which is probably what we're going to do next. Oops. We want to get here. We need the green one, which is the last color. We're almost there, but not for this stream, friends. So the logistics carriers are the ships that fly back and forth. I'm pretty happy with them right now. This is a thing you're definitely going to want to research. Solar sail attaching speed is for when we actually create the structure of the Dyson Sphere, rather than just that swarm flying around. We're not going to get to that tonight, but boy do I want to. Boy do I wish we could. So what else are we going to research? Or what else can we research? We got some things like an energy shield, and the drive engine is pretty darn important, but it requires greens. The drone engine is your construction drones. We don't care about that. Mecha fuel power, yes. Let's get that immediately. And can we go even further? Nope. So after we get mecha fuel power, which just is how much fuel I can carry, we don't need that yet. That's for shooty. Let's go ahead and look at the actual technologies. This is all war crap down here. I've pretty much all researched it, but I don't need any of that nonsense. So it looks like I've reached close to the end of the game. Mission accomplished. Look at that. That's how you win. 4,000 whites. But, friends, I promise you, I'm just entering the mid-game. Even though the research is largely done. So much to do. And this research isn't even largely done. The J slope of how much you need goes way up. So this is where we get greens. And it also gives us the space warpers, which allow us to go forward through time, basically. Now, I believe I can already make primitive space warpers from one of these. But we could do advanced space warper tech. And also unlock the greens. That's really what I care about, unlocking those greens. We also have the opportunity to have some quantum stuff. They're kind of like super upgrades. We're not going to deal with any of that business. But look, the entire tower, it's lit up. The candy box is lit up because, again, we have all the stuffs. And because we have a good number of microchips starting to come in, more of the purple cube tower is starting to show up. So let's take a look, see if we really are getting more microchips. Doesn't look like appreciably more, but we might be. So again, we still don't have enough of those microcrystallines. Let's find out if it's because of silicon or something else. So this one's full. It's working flat out. So this one is literally producing as much as it can. And we can assume that for all of these. Well, not for this one. I guess this one could use a little bit more. But the rest of these looks like they're going flat out. So now we're just to the point where we're making as much as we can. It isn't even a distribution problem, it's just a supply problem. So we set out to make purples go fast, or at least more. We discovered that microchips was our bottleneck. And our bottleneck is the thing that everything else is decided by. Think about hamburgers. Think about an omelet. The theme of this was supposed to be 10,000 omelets. In order to make an omelet, you need, say, an egg. You need some onion. Why not? You need some cheese. Why not? You need some tofu. Why not? So now you have some ingredients. How much of each of those ingredients you have decides how many of these omelets you're going to make. If you run out of eggs, no more omelets. If you run out of cheese, no more omelets. If you run out of onion, no more omelets. If you run out of will to live, no more omelets. So this is called the limiting reagent or the limiting factor. And here it's very clearly microchips. But the limiting factor actually is the silicon coming in. This is logistics in a nutshell. We're trying to find the cause of and the solution to each problem. And they always, always, always involve a dependency. Always. I mean, it's just law of nature. It's ape law that dependencies are everywhere. And just like transitions in games, which kill your player's desire to play, these dependencies destroy our ability to have throughput. But I am satisfied that we at least have some throughput better now, so we can take a look at some of the other mess as we start to wrap up. So whenever oil is involved, you get this crap. And the reason why is oil comes out at a diminishing amount over the time of the game, and so you either need to shore it up like I've done here with this weird oil line, or you need to find alternative solutions pretty quickly. So all of this exists, this line of refineries exists just to make a precursor material that then gets used by these three refineries, which then allows us to make plastic. Kid you not. What they're making, by the way, is refined fuel, like gasoline, and hydrogen. So remember I talked a little bit about waste products. So in this case, hydrogen is both an ingredient. These guys need it to make the stuffs, but it's also a nuisance because once it gets past here, it's in the same line as the refined fuel and these enriched, what are they called? Excited, enhanced, whatever carbon. So all of these are sharing a line that was originally intended just to get fuel down the line. So this is an example of waste products kind of taking over the line. These things have fuel to use, or sorry, these have fuel to use, these have fuel to deliver, but we have to fight our way through this line. And we have a lot of limitations. For instance, pretty soon these storage tanks are going to be full, and then hydrogen's going to be more than a nuisance. We're going to have to find a use for it. And there are uses for it. We're almost there, and then we can make all that hydrogen go away. But until then, all of this is hydrogen with a few of these carbons, and then every so often we get the fuel that we need to get moving. Here's the fuel that we need to get moving. So we have some options here. And these waste products can be dealt with. First off, the options for the waste products. So if all happens, and we have a bunch of hydrogen coming out, so there's 2 ports for hydrogen here. If things get too clogged up, it will spit hydrogen out here, and then they just go into these burning plants, these power plants that burn anything. And I don't care if any of them have fuel. I just care about getting rid of this waste product. And you can see it's efficient enough now that very, very little is trickling through. But I still fundamentally have a problem with refined fuel. Why? Because I need these organic crystals. See how this goes? I need these organic crystals. I noticed that I was running out of them. They're a necessary ingredient for one of my major pieces. So I need to figure out how to get more fuel here. And it gets even worse because I have these power plants that are designed to absorb fuel and other things. So here's a quick solution. Now some more of the fuel is going to travel. Here's an even quicker solution. Now the fuel travels untrammeled by man or nature. It's moving pretty slow, but at least we're getting all of it now. We're getting all of it, by the way, not from these refineries, but from these refineries way over here, which are actually producing the fuel as something of a waste product. It's a thing that can happen. So even though we desperately needed it over here, it was a waste product over here. Logistics. Is this actually a functional piece? No. It is satisfying to deconstruct sometimes. Look at all this space. You can play football now, finally. So anytime you see a line stopped, you also want to ask yourself a question. Is it a satisfied, saturated line? Or is it like this, where it's competing with another line, and so they're kind of backing each other up? A little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. In the end, the criticality of this line is in getting the refined fuel to where it needs to go. And I just realized what a flippin' Rube Goldberg machine this is. Trying to track this is headache-inducing enough. And part of it is a bunch of things required this refined fuel. But in the end, I needed to get down here. And very little is trickling down here. We don't have a lot of options for this one because all this oil is being used in various very important ways. Diverse ways. And our only other solution is to open up another oil seep. So we have some options there. This one isn't being fully used flat out, but it's got a lot of infrastructure around it. And in fact, this is where we want the fuel to start going. So we can make sulfuric acid, so we can make these cinnamon bars, so we can make churros, and we can make these things. So again, one option is just build another facility for making fuel. That's what we're going to do. Why not? We're gonna be tying up. We're not going to get it all done, but you can see the process. So when you think about this, think about flow. You want to think about this as a river we're about to build. So at the beginning of the river, you have the headwaters, which in this case is the oil extractor. Now I don't have any power yet because we're just going to build this out a little bit. And also I need to start building some of these. I got 4 refineries. We can build a couple more, but that's ample. So this crude oil seep has an output time 2.1568 per second. What's important for us is seeing how much refined fuel we can get out of it and then getting it over there. And in so doing, we're dealing with, again, the increasing complexity. Each time we build a new production chain, I mean, you could see it. We're now, I keep talking about all these new things. There's all these new products that keep popping up. This is how we tier out the game as a game designer. So let me finish off with why logistics is fun. And it comes in three main ways. And I will show it to you physically. We're not going to bother with this because we're wrapping up. Why is logistics fun? Why do I love these games more than almost any other game style? Why do people who love these games love them? Why do people who claim they don't understand these games find themselves able to play them? Well, there's a lot of reasons, and this game has all of them. First off, mastering a system. Games are about mastering systems, and once you've mastered the game, you stop playing it because you've mastered the game. So games are very, what's the word I'm looking for? Very perishable for a player, and that's not a bad thing. It's not a good thing. It's just a thing. Oh, look at that! Microchips are now fully supplied, and now we don't have enough. What do we not have enough? It's a churros, because it's not hydrogen. What is it? What are we short of? What are we short of? Talk to me. Talk to me, machines. Yeah, they're all going flat out. Now they're very slow. So that's probably what's happening. Now that I have microchips, these are the limiting reagent, the limiting factor. So simply building these, simply building up a network of spaceships and eventually starships that go between stars, each one having factories, like this, represents a form of mastery. In fact, it is the purest form of mastery even over other games because it has incredible visual feedback of your mastery. And so that's the second reason why logistics games are fun, because more than any other game type, you can see what you've done. You can marvel at it. Every time I look at this stuff, I'm like, holy crap, I can remember like 12 hours ago building this little area over here to serve this tower of blue. And you can see like I have 1 million solar panels here, and I've got this entire power generating facility, and I've got batteries here. And on and on and on and on and on. I have all this visual feedback and all these cool things like a spaceship coming in to deliver, probably mint bars. And you see busyness. As long as everything's moving, you're winning. Or at least as long as things are moving, you're winning. And so you have success right there in front of you. Am I winning? It's things moving. Yes. You notice I say, oh, that thing's not moving, or that this tower is not producing enough. Am I winning? No, I need to go figure that out. So when you see an empty belt, you start to ask questions. Why is it empty? Now I have information that isn't like a number. It's just my soul can look at this. I can look at these empty belts and say, is this doing what it's supposed to be doing? And is it an issue? And sometimes it's an issue and we're just going to ignore it. And sometimes it's an issue and we need to deal with it pronto. And then finally, the more stuff you see, the further you are in the game. Just full stop. If there's more stuff, then you've done more stuff. And then the same thing is true for tech trees, which are a big part of logistics games and a lot of other games. But here we're just going to talk about logistics games. Progress through the tech tree is a very, very satisfying thing in many, many types of games. So all of this progress is motion. It's action. It's your energy transformed into this model. And because it's your energy, you care much more deeply than everyone who's listening to this, the several thousand people. You're all like, oh, this is kind of pretty and such, and I have two viewers in chat and all that other stuff. But what really is happening here is, for me, there's this joy because I spent time, seconds of my only life, to build these chemical factories to do 3 things. These chemical factories do 3 things. They make these candy bars, they make the churros, and they make the graphene, the cinnamon that sticks to the churros. So all of these things happen in these 2 rows. Am I a genius? No, there's a guy who comes into my stream every day to help me out. I ain't a genius. But I can build these things with my own 2 hands, so to speak, and I can have the joy of completion. And I can see it. I can see it from far, I can see it up close, I can see it from absurdly up close. And because of this, I have that feeling of accomplishment, much more so than in non-logistics games, because it isn't just accomplishment, it's the massive scale of accomplishment. And in my case, on 2 different worlds, right? Both the hot place and eudaimonia. And you could see there's all this action, there's all this activity, there's these Dyson swarms going on. All these things are markers of success. All these things are indicators that you are playing well. So that visual feedback, touching onto that system mastery, gives you the opportunity to do things like solve problems when they start to cascade, because you can see that I had to follow several things to get to, and go to 2 planets to get to the answer to one of my systemic problems, cascading. But with your mastery, my level of mastery, I was able to determine what the problem is and solve it. That's a great mastery, and it goes with the visual feedback. Now I can see the mint bars moving. Now I can see more microchips showing up. And finally, because of my mastery, I can optimize for a specific goal. And you've heard me do this all night. We're going to go do this because we want this. We're going to do this. And you notice that there's no real hesitation. It's not like we're looking around and saying, I don't know what to do. Now, sometimes I say we have options, and sometimes I say, what can we do? But at no point am I looking around saying, now what? System mastery. So we talked about the visual feedback, the progression through my activity, through the life force that I put into this model, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So this only works if we scale the progression. And so you haven't been able to experience this because this save is 46 hours old and you don't really want to sit with me for 46 hours. But there is a cycle to all games that are logistics games. This is 100% of them. We do not break this pattern if you're making these games. 1, manual. 2, automated. 3, automated everywhere. Punch a tree. Get an axe to cut down a tree. Get a little robot to cut down trees for you. Get 1,000,000 robots to cut down all the trees for you. So that sort of scaling comes with logistics games, and it's how you know you're winning on the inside, as opposed to all the visual feedback of things having color and shape and moving. It's that progression. I don't have to manually get resources. By the way, this is what it looks like to manually get a resource. I can go up to this thing and go, give me copper. Zorch, 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 and you can see it happens at a slow speed. This is how you start, punching trees. Then you get these miners, and they mine. And they say it's time for me to stop, but you can't stop me. I'm a time criminal. We're almost done. So I started out by punching rocks. I progressed to building these very simple circuits. And then we get to slightly more complicated ones. Rocks go in, some of it goes to make bricks, some of it goes to make glass, some of it goes to make a very low amount of silicon mint bars. That's why I really never talked about it as a legitimate source. It's really not a legitimate source. So these circuits allow us to grow from just a belt to a network. And networks are really everything in games that involves a human's thinking. There's a network underneath it that the human is trying to manipulate or think about it. Now, network can mean a lot of things. Here I'm specifically meaning the actions and interactions between all your various doodads in the game. So we see that here, right? Like bells go in, machine cogitates, stuff comes out, goes to another machine, it cogitates, and eventually you get blue, yellow, red, and purple. By the way, that's not the only thing I'm building, but tonight it's what I care about, getting more purples in there. So because we're scaling manual, automated, interplanetary, you look at this and you're like, holy crap, Sojourner, how? Where do you even start? And the answer is, there was some iron here and there was some copper here. Smashed them together, made a microchip. Smashed them together in a different way, made electromagnets. Now I have blue. That's how it started. And there wasn't any of this nonsense. It was just a machine here, a machine here, and then a machine that's now gone here because the reserves went out. But that's how you start. So you start incredibly small, and you put down like some wind turbines, a few desperately loved wind turbines to power all this nonsense. And now, of course, I'm interplanetary, and I'm also global. I have not a few wind turbines, I've got an army of solar panels. I've got an army of coal-burning stuff. And on the other side of the planet, I've got 3 receivers that suck up power from that entire Dyson swarm, because that's what a Dyson swarm is for. It's supposed to generate power, and these 3 things suck it up. So I've got all this power coming in, and before I was the power. And then at other times, am I really out of solar cells? Okay, there's a problem with production. Another thing for me to look at. But this complexity that you see is because I built myself up bit by bit, starting with making a brick, then laying a brick, then mortaring the bricks together into a wall, and then a house. You can't do these logistics games any other way. Even when you have sandbox mode, and you can do anything, you still have to build up to being able to do the complicated stuff. And that makes sense, and you wouldn't want it any other way. Because I can handle the increase in complexity, I can filter out all this noise. Like, for instance, this entire area here, I don't even think about why it's just the stone section. This area down here, likewise, it just makes those energetic rods and distributes them. It's a very simple circuit, and has a little roller coaster so the silicon can go by. There's other complexities, though. I just built this morning, and it's still a mess. And it's a throughput mess. There's like real logistics problems that I got to solve here. I had to terraform this. I had to eat up some of these coals and hide them, just so I can build as much as I'm building. Now you can see here that we're backed up finally on the microchips, and it's not because of our success. It's because we are not getting enough of these fiber optics. So that would be the next problem to solve if I continued tonight, which I'm not going to. I'm over time, but we're almost there. Let's land this plane, or in this case, let's land this mecha. One thing that happens in all of these games is an exponential level of growth. Wood produces a certain amount of power. In this game, it's all kilojoules. It produces a certain number of kilojoules. I'm going to make up a name, 10. That's not how much. You get to burning coal. That might give you 20. You get to coal being able to be made into combustion units. You might get 100. You get to hydrogen. You might get 90. Each time you move up to a new thing, it jumps. All of a sudden, you could start to make hydrogen fuel rods. It's 1,000. Then you can make deuterium fuel rods. It's 10,000. So this jump in scale, this exponential jump in scale, does two things. One, it gates you. If you're not there, you can't go any further because you need that scale to achieve your goals. But once you're there, you have that power. I'm looking at all this hydrogen going around, and I desperately needed even one little particle of hydrogen for a good chunk of the game. Now I got so much it's coming out of my ears. I'm going to have to do something with it. I know what to do, but not now. So because we have increased capabilities and increased challenges, we need to unlock tools, and that's what a tech tree is. It's just giving me more and more tools, and that's very purposeful, because if I had all these tools at the start, and I didn't know how to play this game, I would have no idea how to proceed. But because I've gone stepwise through all these things, and because it even has things like main quest, it allows me to understand as I go along what I've allowed myself to do. Even stuff that I haven't even built yet, like I haven't built any of these miniature particle colliders yet, which I need to. I haven't built any Casimir crystals, which is a major bottleneck in late game. I haven't done a lot of these things, even though I've researched them. But through my reading, through my understanding of where I am, even if I didn't know what a Casimir crystal was, I would at least have a sense that it's a mid-game resource that takes up a few things that are kind of difficult to make. Information clarity. This game struggles with that, but it's critical for logistics games. This game chose to go with cubes for its products. That was A+. This game chose to be very subtle about how to tell the difference between these products. Not so A+. For instance, we have hydrogen here. You can get deuterium, which has 2 of these middles, and it's slightly greener. That's useful, and it is color-coded, but it's still a problem. You can see here this refined fuel is going by, but wait a minute. What are these dealy-bobs? They're not refined fuel. They're like some sort of thing called proliferators. So we already have this mess of visual language, especially when I have refined fuel going right next to these proliferators. So this is proliferator. These are refined fuel. So even with the color coding, it's not perfect, but you need this color coding to some degree. Iconography. This game has, in many ways, poor iconography. They tried. I mean, they're trying to do something called skeuomorphic, where it looks like the thing, as opposed to being very icon-y. So they have to rely upon us trusting these color swaps, some sort of relationship between the bar and the churro, and stuff like that. It's not. They don't have an easy job. I just feel like they've done some things like showing you the replicator tree. This is actually actively confusing. And, you know, because it looks like things on this line should be related, or is it things on this column that should be related? Sometimes that's very true. Look at all that ammo and jamming stuff. Okay, that's true. But what do missiles and artillery have to do with foundations, right? All of my colors of research are on a row instead of on a column, so it's not increasing complexity that's on the column. Do you see what I mean? Like, there's this mixed language, and it causes issues. This is not a thing you want to do in your game. You need the color-coded systems, yes, and they've done an okay job at that. but you also need strong visual distinction between your resources, not just in the colors of the cubes, but also just hunting down these icons. I'm playing this at a smaller resolution than I normally do. Imagine this stretched out and everything being even tinier. Information overlays. I didn't really get into these, but we have all the information you could ever want is at your fingertips, and you can manipulate these things here. I didn't want to get into it because this is the numbers side of logistics, and I didn't have enough time. But you can see here that things are traveling, and this is being exported, the solar cells, so I only have 14 waiting for the next craft. These are imported. These are imported, so I've got a lot of these, and I don't got a lot of these, and there isn't a lot available. So I learned a lot just right there. And these are interplanetary. This is the same planet. I got 53 distributing sections. Is this a thing that is easy to keep track of? Absolutely not. But I have numerics. I can investigate this if there's problems. I can say, oh, why do I only have 2 drones here? I can have 10. Stuff like that. Last but not least, for information clarity, is the infamous, for this game, infamous statistics panel. There is a time, once you start going interstellar, where you will stare at these panels and become angry at them because the numbers all line up, but because there's transport times, because there's capacities, the numbers don't line up. You can use these graphs to help you out. These are consumptions, these are productions. You can look to see if the production's bigger than the consumption. This is a standard type of graph. It can be very confusing for some people to look at. But luckily they got numbers. The reference rate is based upon what is there. That's the most it thinks that we could do, and this is how much we're actually doing. By the way, the most we can do is often not achievable realistically, like physically realistically, mechanically realistically. So yeah, we've got, look at that. We got milestone tracking. We've got my power network, which is very important. I don't produce enough power right now. I just found that out. The consumption is higher than the generation. And I have a bunch of batteries. So now this is not real, or is this real time? Yeah, this is the real time. I'll fix this. This is super fixable, but it is annoying. So research, we can see my progress on research. And by the way, once I start producing research on other places, I can look at it in various planets. The Dyson Sphere itself, how's it doing? You can see here the things I need to do to make this better. I'm using up almost 20 solar cells, and I'm not producing enough. In fact, I'm not producing any. So I have issues that I can track here, that I can find out more here. I created 4 orbits. Orbit number 2 never is in line with my planets, so I never get to fill it. Meanwhile, orbit 4, which is the farthest one, is got 10 times more sales than anywhere else, and it's producing 10 times more power. So number 4 seems like a smart way to go. This is a schematic. We don't need to get into all this combat stuff, combat crap. By the way, if you're curious, if your computer is being destroyed by this game, it has a real-time performance test for you. Did I get any achievements? And then metadata. This is stuff for the metagame. There is, I'm not going to show you, but there is a galaxy, the Milky Way, basically, and each of the dots on the galaxy is another player's accomplishments, and you can compare yourself. It's like a leaderboard, but harder to navigate and stuff like that. All this information, which you can use at varying times in the game. For instance, this is not necessarily useful until you start having major, I don't have major supply problems now, but once you get major supply problems, you're going to want to be investigating this for the system, for the planet, for all the planets, for just on Big Blue, which doesn't have anything on it, just for the hot place, which does have things. By the way, look at that titanium ore problem. That's a problem. We need to fix that. Silicon ore. We're producing 1,016, and we're consuming, quote unquote, 1,016. What that means is it's all being loaded into the spacecraft. So wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. We're eating everything we make, but we're not making enough. Stuff like that. You can look at things that are pretty esoteric. Like I'm building conveyor belts and sorters here, and I can see how much I'm storing, which is 47,000 conveyor belts. Yikes-a-doodle, that's a lot. Even the sorters, that's an absurd number. All right. How do we close this? How do we land this plane? Let's talk really quickly about how you balance a game like this. This game lives and dies by very intricate balance, incredibly intricate balance. The game developers have spent, I'm going to say, hundreds of hours balancing and rebalancing it. And normally it's 1 or 2 people. My role in my game company is literally balance, and it's just a fraction as complex as this stuff is. But you approach it just like you approach the game. You build up a part, you build up another part, you see how they connect, and you balance those things. But the things you need to balance, more than just the numbers of things coming out, is the literal challenge versus satisfaction. I talked about that. This is absurdly satisfying. Look at the tall towers. Look at things flying around. I'm completing research. All these great things are happening. Satisfaction. Was I challenged to get here? More so than most games. This was, I mean, you saw me struggling with some very basic problems, and these were very basic problems compared to some of them that I had to solve. Like all this oil nonsense that I'm going to do over here. Whew, that's going to be a couple hours of work. So, am I challenged? Yes. Am I satisfied? Yeah. The juice is worth the squeeze, and there's a lot of squeezing in this game. I mean, I'm just going to show you like just one random thing you can do. No, I'm not going to do it. But anyways, complexity versus accessibility. Now, this game doesn't have that. But that's only for a broad audience. For the demographic of Factorio players, those that play these logistics and management games, is this complex? Yes, because it's got its own new jazz, and it takes some time to think about. It takes some time to understand. This game has sorters to do turns, or to do junctions, stuff like that. These things require a lot of thought compared to other games because they're not like other games. However, they are accessible enough for a new player who knows these games. It is completely inaccessible if you're trying to learn logistics games just by brute forcing logging in and playing it. Now, this game has an excellent tutorial, but it's written in very stilted translated English, sometimes hilariously translated, and it mixes narrative and game instructions, which you know is something I hate. Narrative goes in the narrative place, game instructions goes in the game place, and so they do that a lot, so it can be very confusing. And you know, just look at all this crap. Look! I click on one thing, you got a book. I click on another thing, you got a book. So you can see that there's a lot to learn here, and that ain't the way you're going to do it. Reading the book. So the complexity versus accessibility is something you balance towards. How many things do you want us to build? How many buildings do you need to do that? How many types of movement are there? How many types of transportation are there? Etc., 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 etc. It goes on and on and on, my friends. So the big one that you saw me struggling with is how much automation to do, how much do I want the machines to do, and how much am I willing to just sit down and make something. For example, and you saw me do this, but let's make, what am I short of? Oh, let's make some arc smelters. Great, I can make 24. Now I'm making 24. I don't even have a machine to do that. That's manual construction. However, that very, very quickly breaks down, and you can't actually manually construct some things, a lot of these things in red. So the micromanagement becomes a different thing. As you automate, you have to micromanage larger scale things, not the little scale things. You're no longer worried about, do I cover this water? You're worried about, can I get enough fire ice back to this planet from Mintaka 3 light years away? Same sort of problems of micromanagement versus automation, just the scale grows. And finally, short-term versus long-term goals. This is little carrots, big carrots. You saw me struggling with a couple of them. We had the short-term goal of increasing microchip production so we can increase purple drink production. And we got through some of that. The short-term goal was that. The long-term goal was, of course, make more purples. And we did such a good job fixing the microchip stuff that now we're limited by these guys here, which are not... They're much more complex than microchips to build. So it takes the churros, it takes these little silicon crystals, which we have a lot of, but it also takes plastic, which we absolutely do not have enough of. A lot of things take plastic, and all of them are very hungry for it, and we ain't got it. So my long-term goal would then be get the purples running even faster, and then my long-term goal is to complete the research, light up the candy tower with all 5 colors, by the way, because we have another color with green coming up. So these short-term, long-term goals, they're what drives the player. When I wake up and play this game, I think of the short-term goal, and then I imagine the large-term goal. It's barely barley balanced. Wow. I just saw a Mistress shop. Hello, Mistress. I'm glad we got a barely barley out of you. If this was my home stream of Cloud Yeller, we'd be doing a song for you. All right, so I've covered the main things here tonight about logistics. I'm going to just go over the high levels. It's a river. You know, you want to think about headwaters, tributaries, main channels, and deltas. These ways of distributing, these ways of transporting, and these ways of acquiring it in the first place. Things flow, just like water. Path of least resistance, seeking the lowest place. Constrained by natural obstacles. Has to go around a mountain. Has to go underground if their water is permeable. Blah 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 blah. It transforms along the journey. It goes from being some copper into being a microchip thing to being a microchip. And there's bottlenecks, right? And if there's a bottleneck, it's like a dam, either a natural dam which you try breakthrough, or a people dam where you want it to hold back stuff as a buffer. So we got some flow principles, system dynamics, transforming the materials, the flow rate being a problem, which we saw me struggle with the entire session. Back pressure when it's blocked. We got a lot of microchips now backed up because we don't have enough of these fiber optics now. And the network has to adapt to overcome these obstacles, either by you building the network more robust or you just relying upon whatever safeties you have in there. The second one is obviously not ideal. So logistics is core gameplay. There's spatial challenges, there's transport challenges, both in speed and in quality for both of those. Resource transformation, how I want these things to transform, like these microchips over here. When do I need these mint bars? When do I need these microchips? When do I need these blue dealies? When do I need the microchips? All of these are considerations. And with the varied speeds also comes varied speeds. Just how fast can a belt take it? How fast can these little droney dealies take it? How fast can a spaceship take it? These are on different speeds, different orders of magnitude. There's a bunch of different clocks ticking, and you have to keep it in your mind. These capacities and energy requirements also become important because those spaceships take up a ton of energy. These drones take up a ton of energy. Conveyor belts, almost none. We transformed research, making these simple circuits like here, where I use this mining to make 3 different things, and we have the complex circuits like this stuff over here, where all these machines are working in, well, not those, all these machines are working in the service of just trying to get a microchip to this tower. Each step requires a specific building, and most of them transform things in a more and more complex ways. More ingredients, more complicated ingredients, harder to acquire ingredients. And then there's byproducts and waste management, like my hydrogen up there. You need to worry about how much you can make. You can calculate these things, and sometimes it's important, or you can brute force them and run into problems anyway. You can identify bottlenecks. We've been doing a lot of that. Where is it slow? Where is it blocked? And you can start to create buffers. Like there's a glass buffer here. I have a bunch of glass in case I ever need it. It's a buffer. It's like a reservoir on a dam. And if I ever need glass, I can open up the sluices and get some get some grass. Yeah, baby. No, get some glass. And by the way, that causes you to like forecast what the demand will be. You create more and more efficient designs because you're sick of looking at things take forever, and that causes you to solve cascading problems. So system mastery is why logistics is fun. The visual feedback of system mastery is why these games are fun. The scale, growing bigger, and just exciting and igniting your imagination from a planet to a star system to a cluster. This fires your imagination in a way that most things do not. So that's another visual feedback. And you get some early wins, or sorry, you grow in scale, and that causes you to do things very stepwise. You start little, you start with not a lot of things to do. That's your entry point. That's like the headwaters too. Once you start building these cascades of things, the headwaters grow into rivers, they grow into streams, they have tributaries, just like real life. So as a designer, you have to think about how you're going to faucet these in, how you're going to allow the player to manipulate them, and how to get them out of there without too much waste. Because a player should feel like they're being optimal and not see a lot of waste. And if they see a lot of waste and they feel like they're optimal, then you've poorly balanced your game. And that causes the automation. That's because of the automation ladder. When you're manually doing things, it's not as critical, these bits about throughput and output and stuff like that. But once you start to automate things, partially, you start to see the problems with your current system, and then you want to fully automate. And once you fully automate, like this excited carbon Tootsie Roll thing, you can forget about it. I haven't thought about this at all, except to use it as an example. This also gives you new tools as you unlock them. It's a ladder, and as you go up the ladder, you get more and more stuff. We talked a little bit about information clarity and how this game struggles with it. All logistics games struggle with it. It's an impossible problem to solve because you got a couple hundred icons, you got a bunch of buildings, you have a shape language that you're trying to achieve because it's a sci-fi game, stuff like that. And so information clarity is at war. Oh, just gotta look at that planet for a second. Information clarity is at war with the player's desire for more complex and interesting systems. Finally, balance. That's my gig, primarily. Do you want the player to micromanage? How much do you want them to automate? What are the outcomes of that? Is the player probably going to get too much? Is it going to go too slow? Is it going to go too fast? Balance. If you ever want to know a lot about balance, sit me down with a drink and a pad of paper. So this is it. This is logistics in a nutshell. We did very little in Dyson, by my standards. We did very little in this discussion, by my standards, but I think we learned a couple things. I went over it. I'm not going to go over it again. Instead, I'm going to say my goodbyes. And how I say my goodbyes is slightly different. Here, I want to do a couple pitches. So first off, you will see me here every Thursday from 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific. I always talk about a game design principle. However, for the next few weeks, I am not going to be doing a new game. I'll be playing Ale and... why am I forgetting the other word? Ale and Tail Tavern. Oh my gosh. I'll be playing Ale and Tail Tavern with guest stars every week, but we're still going to be talking about a design topic while we have our guest stars running around with us. It's a co-op game. Let's do a little bit of that. I want to also talk a little bit about PyTrap itself. PyTrap is a art studio that does outsourcing. It also does some co-development, and they recently spun up a game development studio, which is why I'm here. I am the game designer for the studio. I handle the game. Everything systems, everything design. We have writers who produce narrative. I assist them in deploying the narrative as best as possible, making sure that the gameplay works to serve the narrative. I work with art, I work with engineering, I work with all the people to try and get the things that we want into the game, etc. I'm a game designer. And the one for this studio. And we have a lot of wonderful folks at this studio. Again, art outsourcing. We have some excellent writers and a so-so game designer. I want to mention that PyTrap has several other streams. Thank goodness I wasn't the only one anymore. You could catch, I think she goes by Chrissy's stream on Tuesdays where she does tarot readings and plays Balatro. We have our creative director Pri pops in all throughout the day at various times to play various games that are cozy, fun, interesting, and may or may not have stuff to do with our game design thinking and what we're trying to build with our game. So what are we trying to build? It's called Forage Friends. It is a cozy game that promotes healthful walking. We want you to walk every day in real life. We don't care how. We don't care if you're on crutches. We don't care if you're in a wheelchair. We don't care if you're a marathon runner. We just want you to do it every day. Get that habit going. Move. And so once you move, you get loot. And that loot allows you to craft and garden. And that crafting and gardening allows you to create gifts for the purpose of closer relationships with companions. We have a number of companions who join you on walks. They have many chapters, five sections of 10 chapters, something like that. I think 60 chapters total per companion. So we have a lot of things to keep you there, especially if you like visual novels. The companions are adorable. They all have complex lives, just like you like from a companion. And unraveling those lives and maybe getting married at the end is what visual novels are all about. We link that again with the walking. We link that again with the gardening and crafting. All of that to get these companions right in your mind and get you coming back every day. Not just because we're a mobile game and we need you to do that, but also because we want you to walk. Build up the habit of walking. That's our vibe. That's what we're doing at PyTrap. That's the game. So let's see. I've thanked all those people. I want to thank the usuals being here, Ministress, Somnia Mia, but especially Shan. You guys are the diehards, and for that you have my undying affection. Let's see what else. I already thanked PyTrap. Oh, now I get to finally do a plug. I have my own channel, and I only want to mention it, very sparingly because this is PyTrap's gig. But my channel is Cloud Yeller, Cloud plus Yeller. If you've seen The Simpsons, Old Man Yells at Clouds, it's that. Cloud Yeller is my channel. I do varying numbers of games. I don't sit and talk about game design, but I do tell stories from my weird life of being a carny, working at 4 museums, being a scientist, being a teacher of children, and being a game designer. And that's not all of them. So I've done a lot of things, and I like to tell stories about them. I like to answer game design questions. I have original music in the form of fake commercials that I write as my creative outlet. There's a lot going on the Cloud Yeller channel. You can find me every morning from about 9-ish to about 10:30-ish Pacific time, every morning. And I have a couple streams, 8 to 10 p.m. Tuesdays and Saturdays, that's Pacific. So you can catch me, Cloud Yeller. If you like this, I'm also on camera. In fact, I'll be on camera for this last bit because I can do it. Steve can. All right. You'll see me on camera. Sometimes you'll see me sing. I got commercials. I got all those things. So Cloud Yeller, CLO. Cloud plus Yeller. I can't spell that quickly. But always stay with the PyTrap server, PyTrap channel first. Not just because they're my employer, but they got rad things going on. My rad stuff is my rad stuff, if you know what I mean. So without further ado, I've been Cloud Yeller. Elsewhere, I am Sojourner here. I am the passer through, and I have talked a little bit about logistics in games. And next week, as we start Ale and Tail Tavern, we're going to start off with the very easy softball. What the heck is co-op? It's different than you think when it comes to game design. All right, Sojourner, I am about out of here. If anyone wants to say a sentence before we go, now is the time for the sentence. If anyone has one question about game design, I will answer it. If anyone has one question about geology, I will answer it. Otherwise, I will tell you all to get, and we all move on with our lives. So there you go. I'm going to give till the count of 30 in my head to get any of those questions, and if not, then it'll be time for farewell. Every time I say about those drones, look at them, so full of color and life. That's Zorg from The Fifth Element, by the way. Do I like this game? And where were the omelets? And what name was I? Oh boy, I'm going to answer all three of those. First off, the omelets were within you this whole time. We made 10,000 of them, Shan. Aren't they in you now? Think about it. Ministress, do I like this game? I like everything. But no, I love logistics games. I have 600 hours into this game, so absolutely do I like this game. I last played it in 2021, and it was really good, but it had a lot of stuff that it needed, and now it's 2025, and it has a lot of the stuff it needed. This team has really knocked it out of the park in many, many ways. I just realized I didn't do a transition to my face. There we go. Sorry. I'm all talking like you could see my face, and it's still my PNG tuber. So this is the Cloud Yeller experience right here. Sojourner is, the awesome PNG tuber. So the other question, yeah, it's my face. I have one. What name am I known by in the north? Okay, this is going to take a little telling. So in the north, I am known as Snowbound Snow, Ice, Snow, Ice, Grapnel, Ice, Snow. And the reason why that's my name in the north is because the people which I lived amongst there, the Water Tribe and the Ice Tribe, they have 1 million words for snow. And it turns out no other words. Everything's just words for snow, and you have to kind of smash them together. So my name from the north, that's the translation, just so you know. It's actually 17 different words, but I have been bound by oath to never speak their language outside of the north. You're just going to have to trust me on the Snow name, because that's what it is, translated. All right, those are all the questions. Those are all the answers. I've had a blast. Hopefully you've had an acceptable time. I am Sojourner. I'm going to put back up my PNG tuber because that's my soul when I'm here. And I want to end this by saying, no one said snoo snoo. Back off. I want to end this by saying, you are all very rad. Be well.